Hey guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another Modern Magazine thing. Because this time we're going to be looking at Dungeons & Dragons Adventurer issue number 42. Yes, I've managed to actually get 2 issues consecutively. I don't know whether my luck's holding up or whether I've finally worked out the tactic of when exactly to go in and grab the copy before somebody else gets it. But this has been the first time since about the first 10 when I managed to get 2 issues in a row. So that's fantastic. We shall see next week if I manage to get a 3rd in a row or whether it was just pure fluke. But anyway, it's a pretty good issue. There's some interesting stuff in it. So let's go over to the desktop and have a look at Dungeons & Dragons Adventurer issue number 42. So, this is Dungeons & Dragons Adventurer issue number 42. Throwing the bag to the side as usual. The item with the magazine this time is another one of their giant dice. So this time we've got a standard D6 in a fairly nice purple colour. It's fairly chunky, it's a bit weighty, feels a bit lighter than a dice of this size should, but that might be a good thing because it is a big heavy dice. And apparently it rolls 6s, so that's very nice. It comes with a Dungeons & Dragons Adventurer felt bag, which feels very, very soft, feels quite well made. And so that's very lovely. And onto the magazine itself. Well, cover this time, it's outside, it's a bit greener. I commented a couple of issues ago that I really liked the brightness of the cover because so many of them focus on being in a dungeon, so are dark and dingy. This one isn't as bright, but it's a nice enough cover. Inside, we've got the contents page, talking us through Portals, D&D for Kids, character creation with spellcasting feats, and the Ranger Beastmaster Parts 1 and 2, and Lore, Drow and Gnolls. And first up, we've got the section on portals, into the gateways that connect the multiverse. So talking about magical portals which lead from one dimension to another, or from one place to another, introducing that idea. Now, this is fairly standard stuff, but very useful because it is included in the adventure. This is the first time I've really seen stuff within the magazine teaching people about stuff apart from the monsters. This in time, it seems that the magazine is supporting the adventure more and more. Anyway, how to identify a portal, how to open one, creating portals. And then we have a very lovely section on D&D for Kids. Now, many years ago, when Adam, my youngest son, was a young teenager, 13, 14, I set up a D&D group for him at the local community centre, which I would GM. And we got a bunch of teenage kids, or that sort of age, coming along. So I games mastered for a kids group for a number of years, until the pandemic kind of interfered. We took it online, but it didn't last long after that. And by the time the pandemic was over, the kids had grown up. They'd gone on to college and university. Running a group for kids is an all too fleeting experience, but I recommend it. The imagination of the kids is fantastic. And this is going through it. So, handling encounters at the table and near the table. It mentions that kids will get bored just sitting at a table, and I did find that. It was problematic because I was at the community centre and the kids would find other things to entertain themselves which had been left around by other people that use the community centre. But, talk you through, they might grow restless, encourage them to hold their thoughts and questions for when it is, but allow them freedom of movement when it isn't, allow them to move around. Creative combat and character death. They like the risk. Rolling dice is fun. Oh, definitely, you roll dice a lot with kids. And there's various further resources, and it talks about pets. And I very much found this as well. The kids group, as I ran Dungeons & Dragons for them, would try and adopt every animal. If you had them run into a pack of wolves, they'd try and tame the wolves. They really wanted pets. It's a massive thing with kids groups. Anyway, continuing on through, we've got spellcasting feats. Going through explaining a few: Elemental Adept, Metamagic Adept, Warcaster. And then one of these sections on the different subclasses. So we're onto the Ranger Beastmaster. We've got part 1, explaining about them, the Ranger's Companion, mortal beasts that might follow them. Then we've got a second section which talks about a better beast. So as they go up, you might get more interesting characters. And we've got the stats for an eagle, a giant wolf spider, flying snake, and a panther. And then we're on to drow. And I find this section a bit odd. First of all, going back to the cover, they're listed as drows. I have never seen drow listed as drows. It's one drow, many drow. Drow culture, drow cities. There is no multiple for them with just by adding an S. But anyway, that's a mistake on the cover. But also introducing them with an image of a drow with spider-like eyes. There's definitely 4 eyes at the front here. Now, while drow are connected with spiders and will often use magic, there is the things called driders, which are half spider, half drow, etc. I've never seen standard drow have multiple eyes like that. Anyway, we've got a section talking about the background of drow, how the most famous city is Menzoberranzan, which I suppose it is from the novels. But one of the big points, if you read the background books, you know, Drow of the Underdark and things like that, is Menzoberranzan's a fairly minor city. There's lots of larger cities. And when I created a drow and ran it for many years, I used one of those other cities. I connected it to Menzoberranzan obliquely. The character's mother came from there. But that was to allow the games master to use information that was more commonly available if he wanted to introduce it into my character's background. I wanted to be completely separate. But I suppose when you've got massive stuff published about Menzoberranzan, you go for it. And we've got drow encounters, darkness below, the shadows above, how to play as a drow, drow in combat, and inspirations, talking about the Queen of the Spiders adventure campaign. And for a change, we've got 2 monsters, because we've actually got gnolls, which are also being used in the adventure this time, because we've got a drow and we've also got some gnolls in it. And we've got information about them, how they fight in combat, encountering them on their attack and their encampments, the god of the gnolls, inspirations, and Tekelili, which isn't that the call of the Shoggoths in At the Mountains of Madness by H.P. Lovecraft? But even amongst gnolls, some take savage to another. Once the leader of a gnoll pack, he demanded his followers' flesh to sustain him and became a powerful gnoll vampire. Though it locked away within a glacier's ice, it is rumoured that he has since escaped. Anyway, then we've got the encounter. Now, the last encounter where you're going through a labyrinth, which is the very last issue, was absolutely brilliant. This one, less so. It is usable. It's not rooted into the overarching adventure so much. It is just part of the journey. But I don't see it being hugely interesting. Playtime 1 to 2 hours, where the last one was 3 to 4. What happens is, basically, the players encounter some gnolls, and then they meet a wounded dark elf, a drow. And he asks to be sacrificed, and if they save his life, he's wounded, he wants to be put out of his misery, but they can help him get across this chasm. And getting across the chasm involves going through magical portals. As I said, the earlier section on portals comes into the adventure this time. So you have to journey across the chasm, teleporting from place to place, until eventually you get out. And there's gnolls there, they'll be firing at you from different bridges, you'll be meeting them as you pass by, etc. It's a very crisscrossy way of getting across the chasm because you're going down its length instead of just across its width. The chasm features has crystal bridges. It mentions that crystal bridges can be destroyed because not all of them are actually going to be used in the journey. What else we got? We've got a letter which has information about what the Dark Elf's mission was. So if they decided to kill him because he's an evil Dark Elf, they would find out information. Wandering monsters, a pack of demons have become lost in the portals. Sometimes they might emerge. D3 enraged more demons. We've got treasure, which is carried on all the corpses, so as they kill the monsters, each of them has some treasure on them. got the stat block for the drow, stat block for the gnolls, and then on the back we've got stat blocks for the moor demons, which I'm surprised they didn't actually put a page telling us about them, but they are very Lovecraftian, weird creatures. So that was Dungeons & Dragons Adventurer issue number 42, and I really liked that one. Obviously, the article on games for children is something very close to my own heart because I used to run kids' games at the local community centre. And it was really fascinating reading through and seeing whether the techniques that I'd created to make games for kids were the same that they used. Whether the things I'd come up with were better or whether there were really good ideas in there. I found it absolutely fascinating. But more than that, the fact that multiple articles within the magazine are now focused on things they're going to introduce in the adventure. So in this one, gnolls, drow, and portals. So 6 pages in the magazine are devoted to stuff which are then going to come up in the adventure. Teaching young games masters who aren't familiar with Dungeons & Dragons and all its lore about stuff before using it in the adventures. That's absolutely brilliant. They're really educating young games masters here, introducing all this stuff. Obviously, I'm familiar with it, and you're probably familiar with it, but as an educational magazine teaching people to play Dungeons & Dragons, that's absolutely fabulous. And there's a big D6 with it as well, which is always kind of fun. But anyway, I think I've been wittering on for quite long enough as usual, so thank you very much for watching. As always, most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.